Republican Congressman Peter King's hearings into radical Islam have ignited a firestorm of protest. Critics say it's nothing more than a witch hunt and an improper effort to tar an entire religion of nearly 1.6 billion people, just as revolutions calling for freedom and democracy are sweeping across the Arab world. Others say, no, Islam is in fact a threat. Joining us is one such voice, Brigitte Gabriel, author of, and I quote, "They Must Be Stopped." She joins us from Washington. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Elliot. Glad to be with you.
Well, there was, as I'm sure you know, a front-page article about you and your perspective on Islam just today, and I want to quote something you said in this article, so I apologize for putting on my glasses, but you said, "America has been infiltrated on all levels by radicals who wish to harm America. They have infiltrated us at the CIA, at the FBI, at the Pentagon, at the State Department. They're being radicalized in radical mosques in our cities and communities within the United States." Now, first, I've just got to ask you, because I read this, and it harkened back to the worst form of McCarthyism of the 1950s. Who are these people? Where are the names, and what proof do you have that there are people who are radicals trying to undo our society in these institutions of government?
Well, I was talking about the Muslim Brotherhood Project, which has been presented as evidence in the Holy Land Foundation trial in 2007 in Texas, which is the largest ever terrorism trial taken by the United States government in terrorism financing, where 108 guilty verdicts were handed down. In that trial, a project written by the Muslim Brotherhood, a 100-year plan for radical Islam to infiltrate and dominate the West, was presented. The plan for North America was presented, which was written in 1991. In that plan, they discussed 29 front Islamic organizations for the Muslim Brotherhood set up in the United States and now operating, infiltrating our government. This is not an opinion. This is a fact that was presented in a terrorism case.
Brigitte, again, I want to drill down. I know about that case. I was a prosecutor. In fact, we were involved in generating some of the evidence way back for that case. You have not given me the name of a single individual. You list every major aspect of our government, the CIA, the FBI, the State Department. Name one person who you can say is infiltrated in those institutions by radical Islam, since you're saying radical Islam is this fundamental threat to our security. One person at those institutions.
Well, there are people who are under investigation, and their names will not be released by the FBI, just like the people who are monitoring Nidal Hassan for a year, and they did not release his name, and they did not share intelligence, because once someone is being monitored, you don't discuss them publicly. But I can tell you that we have had guests to the White House, like Al-Amoudi, for example, who has been a VIP guest for both the Democratic presidents and Republican presidents, who is now serving a 23-year prison sentence. You take Sami al-Aryan, for example, who also was a guest to the White House, who we found out is the head of Islamic Jihad in the United States. There are cases and there are convictions where people have been already tried and either exiled, like Sami al-Aryan case, and only you find out about them after their trial has been over.
Brigitte, with all due respect, you haven't answered the question. Give me the name of a single person that you can say to the public. You're quoted on the front page of the New York Times saying every major law enforcement organization in the United States has been infiltrated by radical Islam. And now you're saying you can't give us a name because maybe they're under investigation. Give us the name of one person.
Well, I can give you one name, Hisham Aslam, who works at the Pentagon, who actually ousted Stephen Coughlin, who was the highest authority on Islam at the Pentagon back a couple years ago, is a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. There are many people like that operating and working within our government who are now being monitored by the FBI. Their names are not going to be released because they are being monitored.
All right. We got one name, and we will follow up on that. I appreciate that. Now, I want to run a quotation, a piece of tape in which you made some kind of remarkable comments, I think kind of remarkable comments, about Islam in the Arab world. And you said that you're contrasting the Arab world basically with everybody else. So let's run this tape, and then I want you to react to it, if you would.
The difference between civilization and barbarism. It's a difference between goodness and evil. And this is what we're witnessing in the Arabic world. They have no soul. They are dead set on killing and destruction.
So Brigitte, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. You're saying the entire Arab world is dead set on destruction, has no respect for the rights that I hope you and I believe are central to our democracy here. And you're saying this at the very moment that one of the most remarkable revolutionary moments in history is sweeping across North Africa and the Middle East. Was that Is that your view?
Well, actually, you are looking at an edited tape. This speech was given about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, in which I was discussing the Hamas mother who sent her children to die, strapping bombs on their bodies, and saying, I already killed 3, I have another 7, I'll be willing to send them out to die as well. And I was talking about how Palestinian mothers are encouraging their children to go out and blow themselves up to smithereen just to kill a few Christians and Jews. And it was in that context that I contrasted the difference between Israel and the Arabic world was a difference between democracy and barbarism. That's how I made these comments, but obviously the clip was edited. When we are looking at what's happening in the Middle East right now, for example, the revolutions that we are witnessing in Egypt, the people in Egypt are taking to the street because they are tired of the rule of Mubarak, who has been in power for 30 years. The people do want freedom, but the only people who will fill the hole are going to be the Muslim Brotherhood. We saw how Hamas used democracy to gain power in Gaza. We saw how Hezbollah used democracy to gain power in Lebanon. What we are seeing right now in Egypt, what might have started as a revolution for peace, is going to be filled by radical Islamic Muslim Brotherhood. And we already saw Al-Qaradawi came back to Egypt, gave the Friday prayer to a hero's welcome. It's like watching again what happened in Iran in 1979 be replayed again in Egypt, right before our own eyes.
Brigitte, with all due respect, I don't think anybody knows how any of these revolutions will play out, but the consensus is clearly that these are essentially secular, that they are pro-democratic, that they are pro-freedom, and that they are not Islamist revolutions. Of course, history will tell us 10 years from now who was right. With respect to the editing, you gave the speech with respect to events in Gaza, but your comments did not, in fact, relate only to Gaza, and I'll give you another quotation in a second. Nobody has been more fervent in condemning terrorism, violence than I, especially Hamas. It is a terrorist organization to be condemned and dealt with harshly, but that's not what you said. I want to quote back to you something else you said, and I don't have a tape of this. This was an interview you gave, and you said, a practicing Muslim goes to mosque, prays 5 times a day, doesn't drink, believes God gave him a woman to be his property, to beat, to stone to death. He believes Christians and Jews are apes and pigs because they are cursed by Allah. He believes it is his duty to declare war on the infidels because they are Allah's enemies. That is a practicing Muslim. Is that your view of the entirety of the religion? And that's where I'm trying to come to grips with the sweep and breadth of your comments and your lack of differentiation between radicals and extremists who exist in virtually all religions and the enormous mass of those who believe in Islam.
Well, also that quote was edited. Those words were not uttered in sequence the way you quoted them. And what I was talking about was about the difference between a devout Muslim who might fall into radicalism and the difference between a regular Muslim who is a moderate who does not subscribe to Sharia law. Those who are adherent to Sharia law, according to the Quran, who are devout following the Sharia principle, are the ones who believe that their women are their property. This is how Ayman al-Zawahiri believes. This is how Osama bin Laden believes. This is how Anwar al-Awlaki believes. This is how Imam Shudri believes. This is how every radical who follows the exact commandment of the Quran and Sharia law believes. Those are the radicals, and that's what sets them apart from the moderates. Obviously, the moderates who believe in sending their daughters to study, to get an education, to get a profession, not to cover with a hijab from head to toe. A man who believes his wife is his equal, not his property, is a moderate Muslim who does not subscribe to the ideology of Al-Qaeda. Again, it's amazing, Elliot. You know, I come from the media, you are in the media. We are both journalists, and we both, I was anchor for World News, and you are an anchor for CNN. We both know how easily journalists or people and comments, especially now with the internet age, can take few words and either paste them together or edit them together to basically express their own point of view.
Brigitte, again, with all due respect, the entirety of your writing, the entirety of your comments, and the entirety of your purpose in going out to speak, and it has been fairly captured in the comments and the quotations that we have given to the viewers of the show tonight. And as you just said, you think a devout, somebody who was a devout believer in Islam, actually, you fairly captured their views about the Jews and Christians being apes and pigs. You said if they're devout, that's what they believe. So the question again that I have for you is, are you not sweeping with such a broad brush? Are you not failing in that most critical error of judgment, which is to differentiate between those who are extremists, who have no judgment, and are you not picking the few to generalize about 1.6 billion people, and are you not feeding into the animus that at the end of the day is so destructive?
Elliot, I come from the Middle East. I was born and raised there. I walk into a grocery store in Arlington, Virginia, and speak in Arabic and hear what they're saying and understand it much differently than you would or anybody else. And I can tell you how the Middle East and how the Muslim world and the Arabic world operates. So when I speak about certain things regarding the Middle East or their religion itself or how they talk about their religion, I hope that you would give me enough credit to know that what I'm talking about in warning what's coming to the United States will be at least considered as someone who comes from the Middle East and understands the culture and can read the Quran in Arabic, the language in which it was written, and recite it in Arabic as much as Osama bin Laden can recite it. So what I'm telling you, that what we in the West consider as a difference between radical Islam and a moderate Islam, when you listen to Erdogan, for example, the Prime Minister of Australia, or when you listen to Imam Shidri telling you there is no radical Islam and moderate Islam, there's only one Islam. Believe what your enemy, at least what the radicals are saying, because it is the radicals right now that matter, and it is the radicals who have declared war on the United States. We must be very wise in understanding what our enemy is saying to us. They are not lying. They don't have a hidden agenda. They're being very clear in their messaging. We are trying to translate and reflect our Western values and standards on their words, and we better be very careful because we are playing with fire and the lives of millions of people if we do not learn how to differentiate between what the radicals and the devout do and say and what the moderates do and say.
All right, I think you meant the Prime Minister of Turkey, not Australia, if I heard you properly with...
sorry.
So just to prove, I was listening carefully to you. I just wanted you to know that.
Thank
All right,
you.
Brigitte Gabriel, I may disagree fundamentally with you, but interesting chatting with you anyway. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Up next in the